Today, Rush the Net Dog has a personal problem, taking the form of male cat sitting for a friend's kitten. And despite being an AI dog that only manifests itself in reality, well, Rush takes offense to that kitty being there. Not helped by, well, the kitten being a brat, and being blamed for their misbehavior, which wrecks Male's home. Though surprisingly, they honestly can't tell which is the cat's and which is Rush's exploits. Not helped by Rush usually splitting his antics between both Male and Neto's homes, as well as online. Maybe they should consider taking him to an animal training course. Pair him with a bunch of spikies. Regardless, to try teaching Rush to behave, Neto and Male joke about keeping the kitten, which makes Rush feel betrayed, and subsequently run away from home. The episode is then the misadventures of the unlucky Rush out in the world, and getting screwed over by life, and a rabid pit bull, for a long stretch of the episode. It's not awful, but you can only get by the same gag for so long, especially since Rush can just transition himself into the cyber world anytime he has an issue. Thus there's no need for him to really have misadventures in the real world like this. But the way this is structured, it almost feels like one of those Pokemon Adventures of Pikachu shorts that used to be paired with Pokemon's theatrical movies to pad their runtimes. Especially as Rush Online then acquires a Moko Loco companion that's likewise a misfit for a short bit. But because this episode is so much the misadventures of Rush, and I find Rush to be a nuisance a lot of the time, there's not much to recap this time outside of sight gag. And if you want the play-by-play on that, just watch the episode itself, quite frankly. However, amidst this, there have been repeated power failures throughout Akihara, with Neto taking the initiative to find out the cause.
勝手に発電所のサイバーワールドを調べたりしていいのかな？
いいの？俺たちはネットセーバーなんだから。それに、停電の原因を見つけないと宿題ができないんだ。
He's being serious. That's a comedy subplot in this episode. Oh no. These bubbles are redirecting power to another source, Rockman following them, and finding the only remaining undeleted Darkloid, the long-absent Bubble Man, who is using the stolen power to try and revive the damaged Shade Man. But because Bubble Man attacked Rush's Moko Loco friend, Rush has a bone to pick with him. You know what? I'm gonna give it to the episode. Rush, who annoys me, beating up a character I despise? This should normally make me hate the episode for bringing them in, but if Rush were here, I'd give him head pats for actually making the attempt. Owned by Bubble Man. Bubble Man! How? This is where Rockman arrives and sees what's happening. Bubble Man taking the shots Rockman hits him with, all to protect his goal that is achieved by this machine. But with all sides withdrawing after it's smashed, Rush returns his Moko Loco companion to their herd and decides, yeah, it's time to return home and see if he can't fix things up. As by this point, Male has learned that yeah, her little Shirone is actually the cause of all the thrashing that was earlier blamed on Rush. Probably needs a black cat companion to keep this one out of trouble. The wrap-up. We have cats and dogs living together in mass hysteria! To how this episode got started. We have Sheep Dog, to Rush's companion with the Moko Loco virus. We have I Know Kung Fu, for Rush's mastery of Nunchaku. And we have Always Remember to Save Your Work. Neto in this episode had a side gag about the power failing every time he's about to save his homework, thus has to keep doing it over and over again. Once more this being a counterpoint to the writers who keep treating him like an imbecile. I was a good student at Neto's age, and I still had this happen to me several times. Up to and including when I lost my term paper in college, thanks to a PC failure. Hell, Neto tries several times to save his work, only for the power to fail at the second he's going to save. And lastly, we have Failed Revival. Bubble Man's plan was to use this power to bring back Shade Man from near death. It fails. This episode is ultimately harmless, though as I speculated last time, it was likely skipped for time because it neither ties into nor affects anything in telling the longer story arc of the series. Besides me not liking Rush or Bubbleman, thus me not really caring for what happens to them, nothing else insults anyone or acts offensively. It's just a misunderstanding that leads to shenanigans. And that's no reason to be a grump about it in the long term, especially with the main plot of the series now getting back on track with its conclusion. Honestly, it feels a bit like a 2.0 version of the Good Dog Rush story from the first season, but without all the things that made that one frustrating, long-term impact that one had or not. But nothing of importance happens here, so even now in a watch-through of the series, it is easy to skip.